The courtroom door felt heavier than it should have. I pushed it open, wearing my only decent suit, the one I had bought for job interviews 3 years earlier. My parents sat in the front row, my brother beside them, all dressed in designer clothes I could never afford. Mom noticed me first and leaned over to whisper something to my dad. He actually rolled his eyes, treating me like an inconvenience, as if my being there to defend myself was a waste of their time. Their attorney sorted through his papers with the confidence that comes from a $500 an hour retainer. The judge had not entered yet. Did they truly expect me to walk in, apologize, and sign away everything Grandpa left me? I placed my briefcase on the defendant's table, 3 folders inside, neatly color-tabbed. They had no idea what those folders held. Before we continue, drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it for you? Hit like if your own family has ever underestimated you, and subscribe because the story becomes even more surprising. The bailiff called for everyone to rise. The judge walked in, and I was prepared. To understand how this began, you need the full picture. I was never the favored child. My brother was the golden one. He got a new car at 16, college fully covered, and help with the down payment on his first condo. Mom and Dad wrote checks for anything he wanted. I worked nights at a grocery store to attend community college, transferred to a state school on loans, and lived in a basement apartment with 3 roommates and mice in the walls. I wasn't resentful. I simply learned early that I had to rely on myself. But Grandpa noticed me. He showed up to my associate's degree ceremony when no one else did. He took me to lunch every other Sunday and asked about my classes. "You're the one who will build something for yourself," he told me once. "Your brother has charm. You have grit. Grit lasts longer." He also taught me to keep records. "Save everything," he'd say. "Letters, receipts, emails. You never know when you'll need proof." I thought he was just being old-fashioned. I didn't realize he was preparing me. When Grandpa passed, the lawyer read the will. My brother received the house. My parents got the investment accounts. I received the education fund. It didn't sound significant until the lawyer clarified that Grandpa had set it up 20 years earlier, and it had been compounding. My share was worth more than the house and the investments combined, $1.2 million. Mom's face went pale. Everything shifted after that. 2 weeks later, Mom called. "We need to talk as a family. Come over Saturday." I should have known something was wrong. When I walked in, they were already gathered. Mom, Dad, my brother, and a man in a gray suit I didn't recognize. "This is Richard," Mom said. "Our attorney." I sat down. The atmosphere felt off. Richard slid a document across the table. "We've drafted a family harmony agreement for everyone's benefit." The first page said I would transfer my share of the trust into a family-managed account. They would oversee it, invest it, and give me a monthly allowance, $2,000 a month, from my own funds. "You've never been responsible with money, sweetheart," Mom said softly. "We're trying to protect you." "Protect me? You're young and impulsive. A sum like this could cause problems if you're not cautious." My brother leaned in. "Don't be selfish. This keeps Grandpa's legacy intact as a family." I looked at the document, then at Richard. "And if I refuse?" Dad's expression hardened. "Then we do this the hard way." Richard cleared his throat. "We can file a petition with the probate court, a conservatorship if necessary. It would be unfortunate, expensive, embarrassing for you." He let that last word sit. "You have 72 hours to decide," Richard said. I stood, picked up the unsigned agreement, and said, "I've decided." Then I walked out. With 72 hours before they filed, I didn't waste any time. Exactly 72 hours later, a process server knocked on my door. I signed for the envelope, hands shaking. Inside was a 14-page petition, asking the court to declare me financially incompetent and appoint my mother as conservator for my own protection. The accusations were harsh. Reckless spending, poor judgment, inability to manage complex finances, all false but notarized and officially filed. The court date was set for 3 weeks. That afternoon, my boss called me into her office. She slid a printout across her desk, a public records search showing my name in the petition. "Is there something we should know about?" I told her it was a family dispute and not true. She looked uneasy. "We'll need to put you on temporary administrative leave until this is resolved. It's policy." I left her office in a daze. That night, my best friend called. She'd heard. Just give them half, she said. It's not worth the stress. You'll still have 600,000. Most people never see that much. I considered it. Maybe she was right. Maybe letting them win would be easier. But then I opened Grandpa's binder, the one he gave me 5 years ago. I flipped to page 12 and my hands shook again for a different reason. Page 12, section 7, subsection D. I read it 3 times to be sure I wasn't mistaken. Any beneficiary who initiates or participates in legal action to deprive another beneficiary of their designated share shall immediately forfeit their entire interest in the trust. A forfeiture clause. And in the margin, Grandpa's handwritten note in neat blue block letters, "Keep this safe, kiddo, trust but verify." He knew. Somehow he knew this could happen. I called Jake, a friend from my study group in undergrad who had passed the bar 3 months earlier. "Jake, I need you to see something now." He came over, read the clause, read it again. "This is enforceable," he said. "If they're suing you to take your share and this clause holds, they lose everything. The house, the investments, all of it. Are you certain you want to use this?" I nodded. "This is serious." That night, I drafted a certified letter, copies to my parents, my brother, and Richard. I attached the page with section 7, subsection D highlighted, and wrote, "You have 48 hours to withdraw your petition. If you continue, the forfeiture clause will be enforced. You will lose everything Grandpa left you." I mailed it at 6 a.m. The deadline passed. They didn't withdraw. Instead, they escalated. Richard filed an amended petition claiming undue influence, that Grandpa wasn't mentally sound when he created the trust, and that I manipulated him. They included an affidavit from a doctor who had seen Grandpa once 4 years before he died for a routine checkup. The affidavit claimed Grandpa showed confusion. It was false, but notarized. Then my brother posted a photo of Grandpa from a Christmas 10 years earlier on Instagram with the caption, "Protecting his true wishes from those who would twist them. Family is forever." Comments poured in from old classmates, cousins, and acquaintances. "She always seemed off. Money changes people. Praying for your family." My phone would not stop buzzing. 2 days later, HR called again. "We're extending your leave pending resolution of the case." For how long? Indefinitely. With 1 week until the court date, I couldn't sleep or eat. Every time I opened social media, there was another comment. At 2 a.m., I sat at my kitchen table staring at the binder. If they wanted to play dirty, I had something they didn't know existed. Something that could end the entire situation. I opened the binder to the trust amendment they submitted to the court and compared it to my original. The dates didn't match. The notary seals didn't match either. I set both documents side by side. Their amendment claimed Grandpa wanted all assets consolidated under family harmony and unified management, dated March 2019. My original trust document, properly signed and notarized, had no such amendment. And it was the seals that stood out most. The notary seals were different. Different notaries, different embossers. I located the original notary's name in Grandpa's records and called him. He was retired and living in Arizona. "I keep copies of everything I ever notarized," he told me. "Send me the document number." I did. He called an hour later. "I never notarized that. That's not my seal." Someone had forged it. He sent an affidavit that same afternoon. Then I hired a forensic document examiner for $300. The report returned 4 days later. The signature on the amendment had been digitally traced. The paper stock was manufactured in 2022, 3 years after the supposed signing date. It was a forgery. My family hadn't just attempted to take my share, they had submitted fraudulent documents. I sat with the report in my apartment and finally understood. This wasn't about unity or family harmony. It was financial pressure. And I needed to know the source. I started researching. Public records are more accessible than most people think. My brother's startup, the one my parents were so proud of, appeared in the business registry as dissolved 6 months earlier. I found a lawsuit, unpaid bills, and a default judgment for $340,000. Then I searched my parents' address. A foreclosure notice was listed in public records. $485,000 owed, 90 days before the bank reclaimed the house. I looked up the investment account Dad once mentioned. Enough of it was public to track, liquidated after a margin call. On Mom's LinkedIn, she had been engaging with posts about debt consolidation and retirement planning. The numbers were clear. My brother's business losses of $340,000, the foreclosure at $485,000, their combined trust shares at $670,000, and my share at $1.2 million. They weren't acting out of malice. They were struggling and assumed taking from me would solve their problems. I closed my laptop. I knew exactly what to do, and it wasn't what they expected. I didn't just want to defend myself. I wanted a complete, permanent resolution. I drafted a counterpetition: breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, and enforcement of the forfeiture clause under Section 7, subsection D. Then I filed a motion to freeze all trust distributions until the hearing. I worked through the night, verified each citation, exhibit, and statement. At 11:43 p.m., I submitted everything electronically. The confirmation email came through listing me as attorney of record, followed by 3 letters. I had passed the bar 6 months earlier, night program, part-time, 4 years of work. I hadn't told anyone, not my family, not my friends, because I didn't want attention or questions. But now it mattered. I printed my bar admission certificate, framed it, and hung it on the wall. Grandpa would have been proud. The night before the hearing, I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I reviewed every argument, every exhibit, and every possible question the judge might ask. I packed my briefcase, 3 folders, fully organized. When the alarm sounded at 5 a.m., I was already ready. I looked in the mirror, then drove to the courthouse. The courtroom door felt heavy again. I stepped inside. My parents, my brother, and Richard were in the front row. Mom whispered something. Dad rolled his eyes, and my brother smirked. I set down my briefcase and opened the folders. The bailiff instructed everyone to rise. The judge entered, a sharp-eyed older woman. She sat and reviewed her notes. This is a petition for conservatorship filed by Linda and Robert. The respondent is their daughter. I also see a counterpetition filed by... She paused and looked at me. Miss, are you represented by counsel, or are you appearing on your own behalf? I stood. Your Honor, I am counsel of record. I was admitted to the bar in January of this year. The room went quiet. Richard's face went pale. My mother froze. My brother stopped smirking. The judge nodded. Proceed. I opened the first folder. Your Honor, I present 3 exhibits. First, Section 7, subsection D of the trust, the forfeiture clause. I handed it to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. The clause stated that any beneficiary who filed legal action to take another beneficiary's share forfeited their own share. The judge read it and looked at Richard. Counselor, were you aware of this provision? Richard hesitated. Your Honor, we were focused on our client's concerns. Were you aware? We were recently made aware. I opened the second folder. Second exhibit, the trust amendment submitted by the petitioners claiming my grandfather wanted unified asset management. I displayed it on the overhead. Third exhibit, a notary affidavit and forensic document report. I placed them beside it. The amendment is a forgery, different notary, traced signature, and paper manufactured 3 years after the stated date. The judge leaned forward. I handed her the forensic analysis. She read it carefully, then looked at my parents. Do you have an explanation? Silence. Richard stood. Your Honor, we request a continuance. Denied. Do your clients have an explanation? More silence. She set the report down. I am dismissing the petition with prejudice. The forfeiture clause is enforceable and will be applied. The petitioners will forfeit their shares under Section 7, subsection D. I am also imposing sanctions of $15,000 for submitting fraudulent documents. This matter will be referred to the district attorney for review. She struck the gavel. I packed my briefcase and left without looking back. The forfeiture clause was enforced 30 days later. My parents lost their investment accounts. My brother lost the house. The assets were redistributed under the secondary beneficiary clause. Grandpa wrote a scholarship fund for first-generation college students in our county. He had planned for this. Even if they fought, the money would still serve a purpose. My brother filed for bankruptcy 2 months later and now manages a retail store in a nearby town. My parents sold their home before foreclosure and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. The district attorney reviewed the case but declined to press charges. My parents agreed to repay court costs, and Richard's firm quietly ended their relationship with them. No criminal record, just consequences. I used $400,000 of my share to establish a scholarship in Grandpa's name. The first ceremony was last spring, 5 students all working nights just like I once did. I used the remainder to pay off my loans, buy a small condo, and start a solo practice helping families with estate disputes. I set firm boundaries with my family. Low contact, supervised communication only, no holidays, no unplanned visits. 6 months later, Mom emailed, "I'm sorry things became so complicated. I hope you're doing well." No accountability. No real apology. I replied, "Thank you. I wish you the best." That was all. Dad hasn't spoken to me, and I've accepted that. Some people never admit their mistakes. That's theirs to carry, not mine. My brother reached out once asking to meet for coffee. I said no, maybe someday, but not right now. Not until I'm ready. I keep Grandpa's picture on my desk, the same one from that Christmas photo my brother posted. But now, when I look at it, I don't see conflict. I see the grandfather who believed in me, who taught me that love without respect becomes control. I kept the records, just like he taught me. And I won. Not for revenge, but to reclaim my life. So here's my question for you. What would you have done? Completely forgiven and moved on, or kept strict boundaries like I did? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. If this story made you think, subscribe for more. And remember, always keep documentation. One last note. This is a fictionalized dramatization inspired by real situations. It's not legal or financial advice. If you're facing something similar, consult a licensed professional in your area. Thanks for watching.